That it is easier to see eye to eye on value when it's a public going into a public. What I'm getting at is the idea of doing a double, triple, quadruple merger to get scale on the private side is nothing new. You know this. I'm sure you guys looked at it in the past. There's all sorts of folks who said, well, if we stack hands, we could combine portfolios, and you name the basin. All the major players have all had these conversations. And ultimately, they discussions fall apart because it's hard to value the undeveloped. And in a private market, you're valuing PUD and cash flow and all the different multiples you would look at, and it can be challenging. In a public market, you're getting value from the public markets in your stock, and so using that as a common ground and then seeing eye to eye, does it make it easier to bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think definitely so. Tim, as you mentioned, you've always heard about I think the holy grail of private equity transactions and trying to bundle 3 or 4 groups together to create that entity of scale that's really attractive to folks. But we've always had the discussions here in the office, 2021 into 2022. It's hard enough to get one deal done, much less trying to get 2 or 3 folks together. And so, and viewpoints in terms of relative value are always a question mark. And so when you think about potentially having 2, 3, 4 private equity firms in the mix, just gets very, very hard to get something like that done. So, and then the integration of that, how you work out the people issues, et cetera, can be problematic. So I just think, as you indicated, when you're bringing entities like this, where there's markers in terms of, what is the value of the 2 companies, it's much easier on a public to public transaction. Or a single-handed public to private transaction just between 2 groups rather than a bundling, just because there is so much negotiation, so much paperwork, and I think it's just very easy for the process to break down. So, just a really, and working with Sitio, they're great getting down to the finish line in terms of the last couple of weeks getting it signed up until Labor Day, and then closing out the due diligence process, going through the shareholder approval process and vote. Chris and Carrie and Brett just did a tremendous job closing out that transaction and getting it closed by year end 2022. Because I think originally, if you went back and looked at that September 6th press release, I think that the original anticipated close date might have been the first quarter of this year. And so they really worked hard to get that deal closed in 2022. So hats off to them. And, one of the reasons why we were comfortable and really thought that they could create a lot of value for shareholders, because they do have a management team that's out there looking at these larger transactions. But, I think that's a good transition or segue into what we're doing, because